Welcome to One Sharp Sword, cutting through to what matters most. I'm your host, your guide on this journey, Wayne Pernell, Dr. P, the Outfluencer. Today, I have a super special guest. Ari Zoldan is a serial entrepreneur. He's the CEO of Quantum Media Group, and he's a regular commentator on Fox, CNN, CNBC, and so much more. Ari, there's so much more about your history and your journey that I want to dive into. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, and I'm mostly intrigued about your background and your expertise. So we may have to do a follow up because I'd love to hear about yours. So
I can't wait. We start with a follow up. I love this.
there you go.
That's awesome. So, so talk a little bit about your journey, if you don't mind. It's been kind of amazing. You started in tech. You started in tech, and then you got into media, and you've always created your own way in different markets. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure, and I think it was really Dr. P more out of survival. I think we didn't grow up with a lot of money, and it was kind of although I grew up in an amazing home with which I think was more important in terms of my parents having encouraged myself and two younger brothers to really be self-starters, and I think that was probably one of the greatest gifts that they could have ever given us. So
Wow.
graduated from undergraduate business school and thinking, you were kind of programmed finance or accounting and investment banking. And I just kind of was told, if you will, from my peers, oh,
Yeah.
investment banking. So kind of just checked off investment banking on that list. If I would have went further, it probably would have been something different, but just checked it off. And majored in finance, minored in art. Loved the art more than the finance. Got a job, which lasted, I believe, 4 days. I begged my boss for a fifth day, but I don't think I made it to the end of the week. Um, but he was kind, nevertheless, to let me go in a very nice and, as they say, menschlich way. He knew, I knew. It just investment banking was not for me. 9/11 happened. The market, the job market, everything imploded, and really there was no opportunity to find a job. And I saw some opportunities in the marketplace in telecom, and a lot of it was, a lot of us claim to see waves or see trends coming down the pipe, and I don't necessarily believe in that. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurship that people don't talk about, which is about timing and luck, and that really can't be quantified. I can't put that in a book. I can't put it on a spreadsheet. I can't put it in a formula. Luck does play a very, very important role. I think it plays a big role in finding a partner, starting a business, but being at the right time at the right place, I think, is extremely, extremely important. If you look back at Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and Larry Ellison, they happened to be at the right time and the right place. But what's different is that they also took advantage of the timing, and they did foresee something ahead. So I do believe it's about timing, but also then taking advantage of that timing, I think, which potentially makes a very, very powerful formula. And
Didn't they? I mean, one of the things, Ari, is that they were prepared for the timing, right? That part of who they were and part of who you are is that you followed a certain path, and that when the luck opened up, when the lucky break was there, you stepped in, as did Bill Gates or any of the others, that they're like, well, now, right? I know this now, right? So
yeah, no, you're 100% right, Dr. Wayne. And a lot of it also comes out of a place of survival. It's feast or
yes,
famine. It's killing what you eat. There's no financial cushion for you to kind of, okay, if this doesn't work out, I can always fall back on XYZ. I think that is an extremely important part of the formula as well. So I don't think it's
Huge.
necessarily one specific variable. I believe it's a culmination of the things that I shared with you earlier.
Yes. Good. Yes. It would be hard to say, oh, do this one thing and you'll be wildly successful.
Right, right. There's no real instruction manual. There are a lot of books out there, um, and the books actually, a lot of them are good. They talk, they do touch upon the philosophical part of it, the holistic part of it, which I definitely gravitate towards that versus more the finance and the modeling end of things. So.
You're a big one for relationships and finding the right talent. And I mean, you've that's a big part of who you are, which is fantastic. Years ago, I attended a Tom Peters seminar, and one of the key takeaways that I got from him was hire talent. And it's like a lot of your quote unquote luck has been that you're very discerning about who you'll work with and who you won't. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Today I think more than ever, it's about human capital. I feel like capital, money, dollars, they are out there if you have a good idea, a good concept. And I think if you work hard enough, whether it's pitching to family and friends, to investors, to family offices, to VCs, to investment bankers, if your idea is decent to good, you'll probably get some funding. But what I think a lot of these investors don't look at is the human capital side of things. And how do small companies, mid-sized companies, large companies not only find good talent, but figure out how to retain them and also encourage them and keep them excited. It's been a huge challenge. I think it's a challenge, and you've been in human resources and you've worked for a lot of large companies. How does that involvement unfold, right?
Yeah,
How do you identify good talent? How do you keep them encouraged? How do you keep them excited? How do you get them wanting to come to work every day? How do you get them to find the space where they could be creative and not be stuck in a box? So my focus is being, if I could find an extraordinary rock star team, which I'm always looking for. Our policy in our firm is that, when people say, do you have any openings right away, the answer is yes. We always have openings. They say, well, in what specific area? Is it programming? Is it design? Is it public relations? I said, we have openings in every single sector you can imagine and sectors that you haven't even discovered yet. Meaning our goal is people first, the business model kind of second. If I could find that secret gem, that hidden gem, that person, that one in a million, I could take that person, I could train them, I could possibly mold them into something or a vision that I believe in, and really just focus on what their strengths are, because everyone has a strength somewhere. It may not be visible to management, but we're on this earth because we have some sort of strength. And I believe that it's up to management, and you know better than anyone, doctor, that's really, I think that's the challenge of management, right? It's identifying people's strengths, understanding, being compassionate about their weakness, and then fully engaging them in a way that they're excited about your product or service.
absolutely. So good. So good, Ari. And I do then also make a distinction between management and leadership. And it's the leadership that then has to model that. Management may in fact corral it and may onboard it, but it's really leadership that models it and encourages it. And that's, you're both, right? As you run a company, you're both. You have to be in both those worlds. A lot of your work is about relationships, and in the past, in some of the reading I've done about you, you noted that business is personal, which I love. I love that. Years ago, the phone company in California did a big thing that was, it was right around when the touch tone phones came out, and it was reach out because the best business calls are personal. And I just that was a slogan that stuck with me
Yeah.
through the decades, because I don't want to do business with somebody I can't sit down and have, you know, a sandwich with, a drink with, just
Right.
somebody that I could hang with. So, talk a little bit about about how that served you, really.
Sure. So, in organizations, and I'm happy that one of your focuses, doctor, is bringing out the power of relationships and networking and nurturing relationships, building trust. I mean, these are things that I think are just kind of overlooked. They're not paid attention to, and I believe that building solid relationships, and it's not just for the sake of having dinner with them, but it's actually figuring out how do we take that concept, like what you said, or what I said that you said, is that business is personal. Let me go into your house, let me rob your house, let me take your money, Dr. Wayne, and say, hey, look, door was open, I took your money. It was business. It wasn't personal. You
Mm.
know, I think you or anyone would have a very, very hard time coming back and said, oh, sure, it was just business. No, it's very, very personal. I don't think there's a differentiation between business and personal at all. That's why I like getting to a perfect relationship between me and an employee, assuming the lines are clearly defined. And that's, also an element of management, is where do you draw that line between friendship and a professional background? But how do you kind of kill two birds with one stone effectively? Because, yeah, it would be nice if you come to the office, we have a professional relationship, all the baggage is kind of left at the door, right? All the fights, the cat fight, whatever you want is left at the door. We come in, we do our work, and then at the end of the day, at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, we leave the office and we go for a movie. So I think separating that two is the biggest challenge. But if you're able to do that and you're able to have that kind of dynamic, I think that's kind of the ideal. That means you probably enjoy the person you're working with. You may not agree with their philosophy, whether it's politics or whatnot. But I think having that kind of dynamic, because that creates an underlying trust. And if my employees say that they'll give me their project, on Thursday at 12 o'clock, like I need to trust them. I need to know that I can
Right.
go to sleep Wednesday night knowing that they will deliver a client proposal Thursday at noon.
Yep.
And if
Yep.
they deliver it at, whether you're a stickler or not, is almost secondary. If they deliver it at 12:01, I feel on some level there's a broken trust there. Because just the way that you gave me that commitment to go to sleep at night, and I felt comfortable with you. Vice versa, I need you to be able to make that delivery. And I think that symbiotic relationship is very, very important. The challenge, obviously, doctor, is, at what level, is 12:01, is that considered bad? Is that considered, well, I have to work on that? And that's kind of that gray area where kind of has to be negotiated. And if I know that my employee says, "Look, I'm not great with timing," so I say, "Okay, I'll give you a larger window, for your stuff. Give it to me between 12 and 5 o'clock. That's fine. Just make sure it's the best quality work, because I'd rather you focus on areas not necessarily that you need improvement on, because that's kind of, if you think about it, it goes kind of against conventional thought. That kind of takes a lifetime. I'd rather focus on your strengths today, and then part of your long-term goal, and many that's usually on the personal side, you kind of work with that. So that's why I think understanding first your potential employee, understanding your partners are really, really important. And then obviously, doctor, over communicating is probably one of the most important things that I've learned over the years.
Huge. It's communication is um, amazingly important, hugely important. I talk about clarity, communication, and curiosity as the three C's of leadership. And you have to know where you're headed. You have to be able to communicate that to others so they can join you. And you stay in curiosity instead of in judgment, and that opens the world up. I'm conscious of our time together, and I wanted to know, remember that one sharp sword is about cutting through to what matters most. It also means cutting out what doesn't matter. And
Right.
on your journey, reflect a little bit about your journey. What did you find was the most dramatic thing that you cut through to? And what was the biggest thing that you had to cut out along the way?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of, whether it's the workforce, whether it's friendships, there's a lot of toxicity out there.
Mm,
There's a lot of people that are not rooting for you to get through the finish line, right? They seem to be there in good times, rah rah rah. You did great. They'll pat you on the back. But what happens in the tougher times? Are they there for you? And not necessarily financial. Are they there to lend a hand and to really help out and I think really believe in you? Ari, you're going through a hard time. You will get past this. Or even a simple like text, touching base, how are you, how are you feeling? I know the climate is rough right now with business. What can I do to help?
mhm,
uh, Now a lot of people use that as just kind of a checklist for themselves to make them feel good. Okay, I reached out to Ari just to kind of check it off my personal list. But I think it's more about really coming from a genuine place. So I'd rather be connected to those kind of people, to a smaller circle. Um, I think I used to be focused, talking about the sword. I think I used to be focused more on quantity of friends, uh,
mm,
versus quality, and a lot of that quantity was just noise. It was just a lot of worthless noise. I always thought I wanted to meet every single person on the planet so I could network with them and do business with them. The reality is that's a little bit out there, and you can't be all things to all people. So you try to figure out how to take your circle, get rid of the toxicity, focus on quality people and quality characteristics. And it doesn't have to be business, it could be personal. And I think finding ways to work with them and to be in sync with them, because at the end of the day you need to count on them and they need to be dependable. And quite frankly, honestly, that probably came from my background, areas where that I've spent the past 15, 20 years working on stuff. I think being a people pleaser, typically doesn't come along with dependability, because I'm going to do something because I want them to like me, or, because of the way I grew up, I wanted, for whatever reason, dependability is for me is very important, and I know that it's something that I have been working on, and I'm kind of over focused on that. So if somebody tells me, hey, Ari, can you get this client proposal in by XYZ? Like, I make damn sure that I'm in there early. So that's kind of been a personal struggle, but also a personal accomplishment that I've been able to really zone in and work on.
that's huge. That is huge. And it goes back to basics. Do say what you mean, do what you say. And so often people will say what they think other people want to hear. And
Right.
it's so important to show up authentically, to show up real, to offer what can be offered in a very real way without it being um, ingratiating. That it's either like I'll be there or I won't be there. I have a hard time with I'll try. It's like
Right, right. I mean, right. I'll try is, okay, like I'll try too. You know, I'll try to show up, whenever you have a scheduled appointment. I completely agree
Right.
with you.
I I
Yeah,
I don't wanna go to a surgeon and it's like, "Will this be successful?" Will this come out okay? Well, I'll try. I'll try
I'll
to do my
try. Right. I'd
best.
rather hear. I'd rather the expectations be managed really well, and I'd rather err on the side of caution and say no. I broke my leg. Will you take me to the doctor? I'll try. Well, I mean, you know, do
Exactly.
I got to back up? Should I call an Uber?
Exactly.
And I've been. I think part of, I don't know if you want to call it, success. And again, everyone determines success differently. For me, doctor, it's not really based on anything monetary. I define success, and I think a lot of people don't define success, which gets them into trouble. They think it's monetary connected, and for some it is, which is fine. I wake up every morning. Thank God my kids are healthy. My wife is happy. I cover my bills. I feel fulfilled. I love what I do. I have the flexibility at this point in my career to take on clients that I want. The ones that are toxic and not healthy, I cut them out. I have the luxury right now of doing that, but that's only after being 20 years in business.
Sure.
So that's how I determine success. Another car, another vacation, it's nice, but it's not going to make me happier. What will make me happier is bringing on a new client that's looking for marketing services or PR services in a vertical that's very difficult and challenging. For me, it's about the kill, and I realize that's kind of how I'm designed. I love the kill. I love in a kind of a very, I guess, to be honest, very animalistic way, where I love pitching the clients, I love landing the clients, and then I like making the clients happy and delivering.
Mhm.
That's kind
Mhm.
of the full gamut of it. But also, I've been fortunate and unfortunate to hire horrible, horrible staff along the way. And that's just the nature, as you know, no one knows better than you of human resources. You go through the interview process, you interview people 3 4 times, you check their references, you do the best that you can, and you end up with a dud, or you end up with somebody coming right out of the gate, wonderful, and then fizzles out after 3 hours or 3 days or 3 months, and that becomes a cost to you as well. It becomes a cost to your time.
True.
And I've been fortunate, the team that I've been working with have been with me for the better part of a decade. And I keep them very close. I keep them very happy. I feel like I pay them what they're worth. And many times it means that I pay myself less on an account, and I'm more than happy to do that. The
Mhm.
client is happy, the team is happy, and it's a win-win for everyone.
It's an
So
equity share, right? I mean,
yeah,
basically, yeah.
exactly, and make them
Yeah.
make them feel good. Because I think at the end of the day, everyone needs to feel good about what they do and how they do it. Obviously, integrity is super important. One last thing I wanted to touch upon, Doctor.
This is so great, right? That was fabulous.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
What
In
was the
some of
last thing?
in some of the speaking and some of the leadership training that I do, I'll do an experiment. I was recently in front of about 600 people on stage, and we were talking about establishing relationships and trust. And everyone in that room, the 600 people, the rule was that no one could bring in a phone, a device, a laptop, a tablet. Whatever. Everyone had to leave in a lockbox outside. They all sat down, and I got up there, and I said, the first thing I did, I got up there and I said, I want everyone to turn to the right or to the left of you. And they're all sitting in a big stadium. And I said, I want you to look at them in their eyes for
Mhm.
60 seconds. 60 seconds. It was, I don't, maybe there was 600 people, maybe there was 4 or 5 couples that were able to do that. And it's the most incredible exercise. It's an exercise I do every time I speak on stage. Talk about human connection. We don't look people in the eye anymore. 60 seconds, that's all I asked for. I saw people crying.
Hmm.
And I usually call those people up to the stage first. I said, why couldn't you look them in the eye for 60 seconds? Well, it was the first time that I ever had a connection with someone.
Hmm.
It was the first time, and these are 50, or some of them are 50, 60 year olds. It was the first time that I ever stopped and I looked at somebody and I saw the reflection in their eyes. And we talk about human connection all the time and how it
Hmm.
ties to business. And that for me is really, really important, an exercise that I do in some leadership training. And I'm sorry, that's talk about, training. I don't know if you want to cut this or air this, but this is my
No,
son. I guess mixing in business and pleasure
there it
sometimes is
is.
okay.
That's how it goes. It's great.
Sorry about that.
No apology needed. This is awesome. This is really great. Thank you.
This is unscripted reality, right?
It's
So
I love this. This is exactly what it's about. There'll be, it's different than
don't
the,
cut it.
no,
Don't cut it.
no, oh no, this stays in because there's this great video of this guy who's, I think it's in Britain, and a child comes in and he's like shoving the child in his face to get him out. And it's like,
Right,
this is not okay. Like
right,
unscripted reality is you've done this. We're all in this work from home space. You've chosen to do this in a bedroom, right? It looks like. And I so appreciate it. And this is about contact. This is about looking someone in the eye deliberately. One of the things that I talk about is the starts with one movement, which is to deliberately, actively, positively uplift somebody, one person at a time. And it starts with eye contact. Can you tell the last person that you saw what color were their eyes? And it's like your
sure.
son was on screen for a brief moment. He's got brown eyes. It's like, I want to know that,
Right.
that's
You
that's
notice, you notice people, it's fascinating, and no one knows this better than you. When I'm on that stage, I ask them what their feeling was. Why couldn't they look somebody in the eye for 60 seconds? And they said, oh, it felt awkward. I said, well, go deeper. They were like, well, I felt vulnerable. What are you
mm,
vulnerable about? And the underlying of a lot of it is also shame. And it goes back, it goes back a long way.
so
Uh,
true.
and with technology, it makes it very difficult today for people to connect.
Hmm.
I'm a Sabbath observer.
Hmm.
I'm Jewish. I'm religious, and I think that one of the greatest gifts that was given to me was Saturday. Was this is a Sabbath because sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. There's no technology. There's no
Love it.
electricity. We lock everything down.
Love it.
Isn't it
Wow.
amazing?
Good.
So we spend
It is
time
amazing.
with our family, we go to synagogue, but there's no Facebook, there's no Twitter, there's no Snapchat, there's no sharing, tweeting, pinging. It's great. It's great. It's really
Ari, I feel like we've just gotten started, and I am conscious of your time constraints today. So I will wrap this section or this session with us here. Ari Zoldan, thank you so much for joining me. This is One Sharp Sword, cutting through to what matters most.
thank you, doctor.